The river was wild that day. The waves slammed against the banks, pulling everything in its path. And in the middle of it, a small child was fighting for her life. Her tiny hands splashed helplessly. Her cries were drowned by the rushing water. No one dared to move closer, except a homeless girl. Barefoot, wearing nothing but her torn dress, she jumped without thinking. The water was cold, heavy, cruel, but she pushed forward. Her arms ached, her chest burned, but she would not let go. With one final pull, she dragged the child to safety. The crowd gasped. The little girl coughed, water spilling from her mouth before she burst into tears. The homeless girl hugged her tight, whispering softly, "You're safe now. You're safe." But she didn't know. She didn't know whose child she had just saved. Her name was Sarah, just 10 years old. But life had already beaten her like she was 70. Her mother had died giving birth to her little brother. Her father left one morning and never came back. The little house they lived in was seized after her uncle sold the land. Her relatives called her a curse. They said, "This girl brings bad luck. She'll end up like her mother." So they pushed her out, a child, alone, carrying her baby brother on her back. At night, she sat by the roadside singing lullabies to stop him from crying. By day, she begged for food, just enough to survive. But Lagos is not kind to the poor. Hungry eyes, harsh words, stones thrown by passers-by. Sarah felt it all, yet she refused to give up. Her brother's tiny heartbeat was the only reason she fought on. Sarah's days blended into nights. She learned to sleep with one eye open. She learned to run when drunk men came too close. She learned that sometimes the police were not protectors, but predators. Every morning, she tied her brother to her back with a torn cloth and went from shop to shop. "Please, sir, bread for him. Please, ma, just a little rice." Sometimes they gave her scraps. Most times, they pushed her away. But the hardest pain was watching her little brother ask, "Sarah, when will we have a home?" And she had no answer. One night, rain poured heavy. Sarah and her brother sat under a broken kiosk, shivering. A group of boys saw them and laughed. "See the witch girl," they mocked. "Even her brother will die like her mother did." They threw stones until she covered her brother with her body. Tears mixed with the rain, but she stayed silent. That night, she prayed. Not for herself, but for her brother. "God, don't let him suffer like me, please." But the world had more battles waiting, and one of them would change her life forever. It was a Saturday. Children from rich homes had come with their families to the Riverside Park. But before that day, the man everyone called Chief Donald was one of the billionaires in Lagos, owner of companies, estates, and factories. His face was always in the news. His wealth was the talk of the city. But behind the gates of his mansion, his story was not as perfect as the magazines showed. Years ago, he made a choice to walk away from his poor family in the village, chasing a life of wealth. He left his younger brother behind, promising to return, but he never did. And while he rose into power and luxury, his brother struggled. His brother died in poverty. Chief Donald carried that guilt quietly. He never spoke about it. He poured all his love into his only daughter, Ella. She was 6 years old, full of life, his joy, his treasure. Her mother, his wife, had died during childbirth, and Ella was all he had left. That weekend, he promised her something different. No board meetings, no phone calls, no business partners. Just a father and daughter's day out. He took her to the Riverside Park, a place filled with families, music, and laughter. For once, the billionaire wanted to live like a normal man, to give his daughter the childhood he never had. Ella laughed as she ran across the grass. Her little dress swung in the breeze, her sandals barely holding as she chased after her kite. Chief Donald smiled for the first time in weeks. The bodyguards watched from a distance. But he didn't care about security that day. He only cared about his daughter's laughter. Her tiny arms waving in the sun, her voice calling, "Daddy, watch me, watch me." But joy can turn to fear in a heartbeat. So on that day, Sarah stood at a distance, hungry, weak, carrying her brother. Her eyes followed the children playing with balls, eating ice cream. And then, a scream tore through the air. A little girl had fallen into the river. The waves swallowed her tiny body, pulling her under. People gathered, shouting, panicking. But no one moved. Sarah didn't think. She dropped her brother on the grass, whispered, "Wait for me," and ran. The water pulled at her, dragging her down. Her chest burned, her body shook, but she refused to let go, until finally, she reached the child. She pulled, kicked, fought the waves, and brought her out. As Sarah held the child, coughing, the sound of engines filled the air. Black SUVs screeched to a halt. Bodyguards rushed forward, and then he stepped out. A tall man in a suit, eyes wide with fear. A billionaire. The father of the drowning child. He froze when he saw her in Sarah's arms. The girl everyone ignored. The beggar they mocked, and now, the savior of his only daughter. The billionaire knelt beside his child, tears spilling. He whispered, "My baby, my baby." Then he looked at Sarah. Her wet dress clung to her thin frame. Her arms shook as she still shielded the child. "Who are you?" he asked softly. Sarah looked down, ashamed. "Just nobody," she whispered. But the truth was far deeper. As his eyes studied her, he noticed her face, her eyes. Something familiar. He gasped, because this girl wasn't a stranger. This homeless girl was his niece, the child of the brother he had abandoned years ago. The brother who died poor while he built his empire. The girl he had left behind. The billionaire broke down. His knees hit the ground. He took Sarah's trembling hands in his and whispered, "Forgive me. I should have been there." He built a home for Sarah and her brother. He gave them school, food, safety. But more than that, he gave them back their dignity. And Ella, his daughter, grew up calling Sarah her sister. That day at the river was not just the day Sarah saved a life. It was the day truth surfaced, the day family was restored, the day the poorest hands carried the richest love. And the lesson? Wealth is not in what you keep. It is in what you give. Even the hands you despise today may be the hands that save you tomorrow.